the CPA exam, whether it's from your professors or from students or from other classes or from people who work in the accounting field. We all hear about the CPA exam and becoming a CPA. However, there are so many aspects to the CPA that nobody talks about. And honestly, I don't know why. In case this is the first time you're watching one of my videos, I'm always super transparent, as I used to work at Deloitte too. I used to be in the big four public accounting firms, and I'm not anymore. And I always like to be super upfront about the good, the bad, the pros, the cons, and basically everything you need to know. I've said numerous times in other videos, I purposely did not get my CPA. There's a lot about the CPA that's great, don't get me wrong, but there's also a lot about the CPA that's not so great and just straight up frustrating. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the 3 main reasons that I purposely chose not to get my CPA. Number 1, negative long-term ROI. In case you didn't know, I'm a DJ and electronic music producer and a YouTuber and an entrepreneur. So I realized way early on when I was getting into accounting, I'm not going to be in accounting forever. It's just not my field. I know I'm not going to stay in accounting. I know I'm not going to bounce to finance or something that's kind of similar in that vertical niche of accounting and business and finance. So I realized, you know what? I am actually going to get a negative long-term ROI. Now, don't get me wrong. Having a CPA is way better than not having a CPA. There is one thing, though, that no one talks about that's actually a negative side effect of having a CPA. I'll talk about that a little bit later in this video. But for me, though, I realized, okay, it's roughly about 1,000 hours that you spend studying for the CPA exam to take it, pass it, not to mention all the logistical time that you have to do in terms of going to the site, going to the center, taking it, et cetera, et cetera. So I realized for me, I was like, you know what? I know I'm not going to stay on the path for accounting forever. I'm better off taking that 1,000 hours of studying and putting it towards my entrepreneurial pursuits. But even still, after I left Deloitte, I worked for a company actually that did stuff with Microsoft. And I remember in their interview, I was ready to kind of give my speech about why I worked at the Big Four but didn't get my CPA. I remember in college, everyone told me if you work at the Big Four and you don't get your CPA, people will ask you for the rest of your life why you didn't get your CPA. Now, in accounting, partly true. If you stay in accounting, however, every professor, every person I talked to made it seem like that everybody, for the rest of my life, random people on the street would be like, hey, you worked at Deloitte? You didn't get your CPA? Oh my God, are you stupid or something? That's exactly what they made it seem like. And in the interview with Microsoft, I remember they stopped me and they're like, whoa, yeah, you worked at Deloitte. That's great. Good for you. Why would we care if you got your CPA or not? And at the time, I was interviewing for a sales position, so I was like, oh, you know what? I understand this is not accounting and it's more sales related, but I just want to explain why I didn't get my CPA with the Big Four and why I worked at Deloitte and I didn't get my CPA. And they're like, we don't care. Even one of the interviewers was like, CPA, that's for accounting, right? That's an accounting type thing. And that blew my mind that when I was interviewing for Microsoft, one of the biggest companies in the world, arguably, they didn't care that I didn't have my CPA, but I worked at the Big Four. Also, one of them had some vague ideas about what a CPA is. And I want to say that because when you're doing accounting, you get put in this accounting bubble that everybody knows what a CPA is. Everybody knows what the Big Four is. And also, statistically speaking, only 1/3 of people who graduate with an accounting degree get their CPA. When you're in school, they make it seem like 95% of people have the CPA. If you don't have your CPA, you're some weird lowlife loser that is some weird outcast. Not true. Like I said, only 1/3 of people who graduate with an accounting degree actually get their CPA. So that's what made me realize, like, wow, the CPA is very overhyped. And I want to stress that, look, if you're, like, say, coming back from work and you're sitting at home and you're doing nothing except watching Netflix, you might as well get your CPA. I mean, why not? Like I said, you might as well get it. In addition, number 2, if you are staying in accounting or finance, especially get the CPA, because I promise you, they will actually ask you. If you do stay in the Big Four, or if you pivot to, like, say, a regional firm or a smaller firm, and you stay within accounting, they will ask you and say, hey, when are you going to get the CPA? Because you should get it as soon as possible. But besides that, if you do have other pursuits and goals and dreams that don't really relate to accounting and finance, honestly, don't get the CPA. Spend your time somewhere else that's more beneficial for the long term. Number 2, the requirements. Now, 2 of these are pretty common, but one, and I don't know why, is not talked about pretty much ever. I just learned this kind of the second before I was starting at the Big Four, and I was like, wait, why is the CPA requirement not talked about at all? Now, there's 3 requirements. First off, 150 credits. We've all heard this. It's kind of annoying. I still don't know why you need 150 credits to sit for the CPA exam, but besides the point, you need 150 credits. I have a link listed below in the description to a video I did about how to get that as fast as possible in terms of making the whole process easier to get 150 credits. So definitely check that out. The second requirement is passing the CPA exam. Of course, passing the 4 parts. The third requirement, which is a big reason why I actually chose not to take the CPA exam especially, and I actually stopped studying for the CPA exam right when I heard this requirement, is that you need minimum year working at a public accounting firm. Meaning that, let's say you bust your butt, you get 150 credits, boom. You then study like crazy, you're staying on Friday, Saturday nights, you're not going out, boom, you pass those 4 parts within the 18-month window, but then you only work in an accounting firm for 7 months, but then like, you know what, I think I'd rather just do something in sales, this accounting thing isn't for me. You will not be CPA eligible. You will not be a certified public accountant because you didn't satisfy that last requirement. This is kind of similar to the first reason that I mentioned as to why I didn't get my CPA, but I want to put it as the second reason because this was a big thing for me because I realized, wow, that means if I'm going to go all out and I'm just going to pass the CPA, if I'm just going to get the CPA, that means I have to stay at a firm for at least a year. Stick it out no matter how bad it is, no matter how much I wish I was spending my time on something else, I have to be there for a year. And I'm not gonna lie, I realized pretty early on, I don't think I'm gonna last a year, just gonna waste my time. And remember, time is the most valuable thing. And that's why I keep going back to this point, that if you do know you're gonna do something that's completely different than business, I don't think the CPA is worth it. Number 3, the post CPA, and the one negative side effect about having CPA is CPEs, or continuing professional education credits. Now, in case you didn't know, of course you have to get the CPA. But not only do you have to get it, you have to maintain it. Every year or two, you have to basically get CPEs, or continuing professional education credits. Think of them kind of like mini college courses, and you have to do these. There are some workshops out there that you take like 1 week every, I think it's like year or 2 years or whatever it is, and it's basically like some accelerated week that for that entire week, you basically just bang out all the CPEs you need to basically stay as a CPA. And I stress that because let's say you hustle hard on all these CPA requirements. You get the 150 credits, you pass it, you work in public accounting for a year. Let's say you get to senior. Let's say you stay at the Big Four, you get to senior, and then you pivot and you're like, you know what? I don't really feel like doing accounting that much anymore. And let's say you decide to become like a business writer. Let's say you want to write business books and you want to put your title as Joe Schmo CPA as the author name. But guess what? If you don't take and get those continuing professional education credits and all those little things you need to do to continue to be a CPA, you will not be a CPA anymore. So you're going to go from Joe Schmo CPA on your business books to Joe Schmo. Now, if you do stay in business, whether it's accounting or finance or whatever, typically a lot of companies will actually pay for the CPEs, or they'll kind of already have it set up for you because obviously they know that you have to do it. So usually most companies will set this up for you and just have it be a lot easier, especially if you're doing, like, say, that accelerated week, or they say, hey, we're gonna take a few days here, a few days there, just to basically get your CPEs done. That's obviously a lot easier, but keep that in mind that you may have to go out on your own and take one of these accelerated workshops or classes or programs just to get these CPEs there, so that way you can still say that you're CPA, which is kind of annoying that essentially you have to do this for the rest of your life just to stay a CPA.